Right, friends, come on. Right, friends, let's get started. So you see what we have talked about is auto configuration, which happens automatically. So see, we need not. If it's a Spring Boot application, we just need to make sure of certain things. Like for example, in this case, we need to make sure that the classes that we have written over here, all right, the class that I mean, the packages that we have created, those packages are supposed to be just exactly within the within the package that hosts your main application, correct? So this is what we have seen in action. This is what we have seen in action. So once again, just to very good, Devti, very nice. So once again, you see this, we don't need to give this component scan. Just make sure that each and every package that you create must be within the main package that has got your public static void main class, and that is marked as Spring Boot application. It will take care of automatically scanning through all the other packages that are within this package and see that if those packages, those classes within those packages are annotated with something like @component or @service or @repository, then it will automatically instantiate those classes. We don't need to worry about it, right? So this is one thing. Now see the second part here. See the second part here. I will just do one thing. I will go to my pom.xml file and I will include a dependency here. I'm not doing anything else. I'm just going to include a dependency. Okay. See, I'll say dependency, and in that dependency, what is it that I'm going to put here? I'll say spring hyphen spring. I'll say hyphen boot hyphen starter hyphen data JPA. Can you see this data JPA? And then of course it is from org.spring framework, and I don't need to put the version as such because we are working with Spring Boot. That's yet another point that we will be discussing. We'll come to that a bit later. So you see this, you have your dependency. Okay, so this is what I have included. I did not do anything else. I have just included this JPA library. That's it. And now when I run my application, it will give me an error saying that you have not configured the data source. Now listen to this very carefully. Okay, so it did not give me that error, maybe because I have not configured MySQL data source as well. You are right. Thank you so much. I must go to Maven and refresh this, correct? Yeah, because it had not yet come in. Okay, here you go. Now I will close this and I will run this once again. So please see this. It will give me an error. Yeah, you see this is an error. So this error is because, see, it says fail to configure the data source. Now forget about the failure, but please note the fact that it tried to configure the data source. I repeat, it did try to configure the data source and it did not find the URL. That's all fine, but then see, this is the point. It did try to configure the data source. How did it try to? Just by including this dependency. Only by the virtue of this dependency, it automatically, now note my words again, automatically, it tried to create a data source object. If I remove this, if I comment this, and if I refresh, of course, it's gone. And then now when I start my application, it will start successfully. Why? Because it is not trying to create a data source automatically. See this? But just because I have included this dependency, it understands automatically that it is supposed to create a data source, because if it is if we are including starter data JPA, this has got something related to database, correct? And for the database, it says that I will create a data source for you. Java.sql data source must be created, but then there is no configuration of the URL. Right, which database to connect to, what is the username, what is the password, that is not available. So that is the reason why it did not work. It will not work. So please see, I'm getting an error because it tries to create a data source. See this, it fails. Now how does it understand and how does this entire thing work? So this is extremely interesting, my dear friends. Please pay very careful attention here. So you see this, I'm going to close this, and I will take you to, okay, let me check this out here. See, through Maven, it says that it is including all of these libraries as a result of that dependency. So you will see here all your org, Spring Boot specific libraries are here as well. Out of which there is one library that is called Boot Auto Configure. Can you see this, friends? Come on. Right? Can you see this, please? What is this? Auto configure. Correct? I expand this auto configure. Within the auto configure, you see I expand meta-inf, and within that, do you see there is something called spring.factories. Hello friends, all with me? Please see. There is something called spring.factories. I double click on the spring.factories and you see this. They have configured the auto configuration classes over here. And you can see this, it starts from here, auto configure. So automatically these classes, these are the classes that it includes for auto configuration, out of which you will certainly find there is one class, JPA repositories auto configuration. Can you see this? So this is the class. But now when I double click on this and I go to this class, you see JPA auto configuration, which is there in that library. Please see it is conditional in nature. Can you see this, friends? It is conditional. And what is that condition to start with? Condition on bean data source and conditional on class repository.class. What does this mean? See that conditional on class. What does this mean? This means that this class, I repeat, this class will be instantiated and this auto configuration will be executed only and only if this class is there on the class path. See the beauty out here. Only and only if this class is there on the class path. So if there is a class there on the class path, this particular class JPA repository.class, then only it will swing this in action or else no. Now where is this JPA repository coming from? What do you think? Where is it coming from? You can see this, it is coming from data JPA. So if I remove and if I just go to my pom.xml file once again, if I go to my pom.xml file once again, and if I comment this, if I go back to my Maven, I refresh it, then do you think I'm going to get that Shift-T Spring? You see this JPA repository? I do not have JPA repository.class. See, it's not there at all. So if it is not there, will it carry to JPA auto configuration, this particular JPA repositories auto configuration? Do you think it will execute this auto configuration? No, it will not execute this auto configuration. All with me, friends? You're getting the point? Pretty simple stuff. Pretty simple stuff. Right? So the auto configuration is conditional. That auto configuration class is there, but it conditionally executes the configuration. So you see this now, if at all it is there in the class path, which we keep, and then you see there are other functions that are there, and you can see this @bean conditional on. Again, there is a condition. That means this bean will be instantiated only and only on the condition. Don't worry about this bean stuff. I will explain that to you. What is that @bean? You're getting that point? Right. So this is one of the big features. Now I would like to take you back now. Over here there are so many frameworks, tools, technologies out there in the market. You have got Redis database, that's also one of the type of in-memory database. Then you have got Mongo database, you have got a Neo you have got Couchbase, you have got MongoDB, right? You do know about MongoDB for sure. That's very famous, MongoDB. You do have Cassandra. Okay, this is yet another database. You can see this Cassandra auto configuration. So this Cassandra auto configuration will swing in action only and only when conditional class CQL session. If there is no such class called CQL session, it will not care to execute this configuration at all. Correct? That's how it is. And then you also have so many other things. For example, you have ActiveMQ. Okay, ActiveMQ. So if I put my ActiveMQ in the class path, it will automatically do the configuration for ActiveMQ. Correct? For something like Cassandra, I don't need to give anything, just simply put the library. It all picks up the default values, the default username, the default password, and the default URL, and everything is taken. Kafka, if I want to use Kafka, then Kafka auto configuration. This is yet another messaging platform. And then mail sender auto configuration and so on. So all of this is all by default, it will get configured by default. That's the beauty. That's exactly the beauty is of this framework, Spring Boot. A lot of auto configuration happens here in Spring Boot. This was not the feature of just the Spring framework. Spring Boot that was added to Spring framework provides this fantastic feature. Right, friends? I hope you're getting the point. Any doubts, any questions on auto configuration? Very important stuff. Very, very important stuff. Okay, let's move on. Come on. So, what am I going to do now is. Hello, please go on mute mode. Hello, please go on mute. Hello, please go on mute. Monisha, I think you are not on mute. Monisha, please go on mute. Monisha. Hi, Monisha. Okay, thanks. Thank you. Right, so coming back here, correct. Correct. So you see this, we have talked about auto configuration, which is the most basic stuff out here, auto configuration. So one thing is for sure, that all the packages that you create must be from within the base package, right? That must be within the base package. That's what we have understood. So this was one thing. And so there are many other things that you've got in Spring Boot. And what that is, say for example, here you do have DAO class out here. You do have a DAO class. Okay, you do have a DAO class out here, but suppose this DAO class, you want to programmatically create the instance of this DAO class. Perhaps you are expecting some string, say for example ID, something like this. Okay, some string ID, and then you see you do have the default constructor is not there at all. This is the only constructor that you have got, and you're going to pass some ID out here. Okay, so no means of string type ID. Correct. So now what it is going to do, it is thinking is that it is supposed to, this is not a compilation error. This is an error that is given by the IDE. Otherwise I can very well create a class with with string ID or something like that, but this will fail again. Why? Because when I try to run my application, it will try to instantiate this application and it will look for a constructor which is a default constructor, isn't it? So you see this fails. You can see that here there is no default constructor. The only constructor is this ID constructor, and it actually fails, so it doesn't work. So suppose you want to programmatically create this bean. You want to programmatically create the instance of it. So here I've given ID, it can be anything else, or say suppose you want to programmatically create it and you don't give @ component over here. Let me give this a string ID. So if I don't give @ component here, do you think it's going to instantiate it? Do you think this will get instantiated, this class? Come on, yes or no? Will the class be created? the object of the class will be created? No. Correct? That won't be created. So you see there is no constructor getting executed at all. But I want a bean, and when the bean is created, I must pass some value over here. Suppose I say private, I'll say int ID, or say string ID for that matter, string ID, and then if I here say this dot ID is equal to ID, something like this. This is something, something of this kind is what is needed. So what I'm going to do, I will create another class here. I repeat, I will create another class, and I will first of all, okay, I like this flattening up the packages, so this is more cleaner for me to look at. Now I'm going to create a package. Again, all the packages must be within the Spring Boot training package, and I'll say config. What is the name of my package? Config. Well, it can be anything, but this is the naming convention. I say config. I'll create a class, and I will give the name of the class as my app configuration. Suppose I give something like this, my app configuration. In this my app configuration, I'll write @configuration. You can see this. Now what does this mean? This means that this particular class will be the configuration class. I repeat, this class will be the configuration class. correct, and it will automatically swing this class in action automatically. And here I can define an annotation called @bean, and I will say public. What am I going to return back? Customer DAO, and then I'll say customer DAO, or I can give any method name, but this is the naming convention. I'll say return new customer DAO, new customer DAO, and here I'll give ID as whatever, I'll say spring training. This is the ID, suppose spring training. Okay, this is how I want to instantiate. So I did not want my Spring container to automatically consider this to be a component, but I will programmatically create an object, and accordingly then it must put it into the container. So who is going to execute this function? Since I have annotated this with @bean, it is the responsibility of Spring Boot to instantiate, or rather execute this function, and whatever this function returns back, that will be stored in the container. This is as good as making @component here, but what is the difference? With @component, I will not be able to instantiate the class the way I want. Here I am instantiating the class the way I want. I wanted to pass something as a parameter in while creating an instance of it. So I decide how to create an instance. If I leave it to the Spring container with @component here, then in that case I will have to provide a default constructor, or else some of the other bean that must be passed as a parameter, but I don't have any other bean to be passed as a parameter. This is a this is the value that I need to set at the time of creating an instance. You got this? This is how it is. So you see now I am going to write out here system.out.println. I'll write @bean function customer DAO is executed. You're getting the point? Is executed. So let me show this to you now. I'll just refresh this. You can see this. You see this @bean function customer. Did I call this function? Hello friends, I need an answer from you all. Did I call this function, or it is the Spring container which has called this function? What do you think? Have I called this function? Customer DAO function, did I execute this function from anywhere? No. So Spring container executed this function. Why did and how come Spring container knows about it? Why did Spring container execute this function? Because of what? Because of @bean. And because of @configuration. Yes, @bean and @configuration. @configuration, it will instantiate this class, and it will look for the functions which are marked as @bean, and it will execute those functions. Whatever is returned from that function will be stored as a bean in Spring context. In the Spring container, you may call it. It will store it as a bean. You got that? Yes. Correct. So this is how it is. So bean and the configuration, you see this function gets executed, and you see customer DAO is instantiated as well. So you see this customer DAO is instantiated. That is what we are getting over here, isn't it? Come on friends, I want you to do hands-on. It shouldn't take more than 5-10 minutes max. Please create a customer DAO class, remove it or comment that component from here, put string ID, create a new class called my app configuration, and you have to create a class like this, and then customer DAO. Just make sure all your classes, all your packages must be within this package. See the way I have config is within Spring Boot, DAO is within Spring Boot. Say @bean and instantiate this class. Come on, and you must put the SOPs, and you must be able to get the system.out.println on the console. Get started now. Right friends, so let's get started with another topic now. This is an interesting topic, very, very important. You see this, you've got a yeah, very good Ananya, nice. See, you've got resources packager, and you have got something like application.properties. Now these properties that you configure here, a lot of properties can be configured here which are very specific to Spring Boot, how Spring Boot behaves. For example, logging related, and then you will also configure some properties with respect to database and so on, right? You can configure loads of things with respect to the database. So we have not used so I have commented in pom.xml file. You see this, I have commented this, and hence we don't need to configure the database. That's okay. But if at all we had we wanted to use database, then we will have to configure the database here. But my point here is this: when we configure the database, don't you think that the database in the development environment would be different as compared to the database that is there and that would be there in there for production environment and for the QA environment? You remember we did talk about the different environments. You remember? It's a file open recent. Let me check. Right, I think here, okay. I do not remember where exactly, but then we did talk about it, right? So let me check once again. It was, this is the one that we have today, and then 2, 3. Okay, I think no. Okay, I forgot, or maybe that was on my different machine, and if it is not on this machine, so perhaps no problem. But you remember this, we did talk about and I distinctly remember. So we did talk about classes, collections, exceptions, function G, and I have shared that with you all, isn't it? I did share that with you. No problem at all. So I'll say draw the diagram, and I'll come back to today's. Okay, so you see there are different environments that we have got dev environment, wherein all our developers are merging their code, correct, and then we deploy it on the dev server. And then you have another environment which is a QA environment, and then and then after that we've got a staging environment, right? We've got staging environment, and then we also have, other than the staging environment, we also do have something like the production, of course, the most critical, right? The production environment. I'll say production. So all of these are the different environments that we have. Let me extend this to 17, right? That's how it is. So it moves, you deploy the dev here, and then you've got QA, and then staging, and then so on. So you will need definitely database, dev database, you will need QA database, you will need staging and production database, isn't it? You will certainly need that. And when you write your application, and when you write your application, my dear friends, your application will be at times deployed on dev, so it must use dev database. It must be deployed on QA, so it must use QA database. If deployed on staging, then staging and production, so production. Different databases it must access, isn't it? So in such a case, what happens here is that you got just one single application.properties file. So what Spring Boot and how Spring Boot works is that it considers application.properties file as the default file. That means if at all any property is configured here, it is configured. But if suppose you want to override the value of that property for dev, or if you want to override the value of the property for dev as well as a different property for production or for QA, then we can very well do it. How do we do it? So very simple, automatically. Now this was like, good amount of configuration when we, not good amount, but then still some configuration at the time of using, just the Spring framework and not Spring Boot. But with Spring Boot, it automatically understands that. What I do is that I just copy it and paste it. I use the hotkey Command C, Command V, and I say application-dev. And I say, and all the properties are not just the database, any property can be overridden. I'll say QA. Okay, I'll say QA, and then I say, I'll say QA, and I'll say prod. This is how it is. So I have created in fact 4 properties. One is the default one, and the one is specific to dev, and then prod, and then the QA. So for this properties, I say 8081. Okay, then I copy this. As I said, it can be any properties. It can be any property, right? Not just simply the database related properties. It can be anything. I'll say 8082. So in the dev environment, it will run on 8082. In the QA environment, it will run on 8083. And on application.QA properties, I will run this on say 8084. So you see, I've got 8081, 82, 83, 84, isn't it? So default is So, you know, when I say 8082, dev also 8082, prod, and then this. Since I have got all the three environments, it will anyways override server.port. Whatever I give over here doesn't matter at all. I may give 99999, but see, it will override when I run this in the dev environment. So what am I going to do now? I'll say spring dot active profiles. Can you see this? Oh, sorry. I'll say spring dot profiles dot active. You can see that, and I'll say the active profile is dev. And in the dev application hyphen dev dot properties file, what is the ports set, friends? 8082. And if the active profiles is dev, tell me now when I run this code, tell me on which port number do you think my application will run? 8082. Perfect, Anand. Very nice. So I run this, and you see this, it will run on 8082. As you can see for yourself here, it has started on 8082, and here it is, you can see this 8082. Okay, suppose if I say this is QA, and then when I run this, where will it run? It will be on 8083, because that's what 8084, that's what. Okay, in QA it is 884. Sorry, 8084, correct. You got me. And then if I say it is prod, then whatever I have configured in prod, see this? Whatever I have configured in prod, it's 8083, so it will run on 8083. Okay, now my question to you is this. Suppose in the prod I have not configured this at all. I have commented this, I remove it otherwise. I do not have that configured in the prod at all. Now tell me on which port will it run? On which port will it run? Yeah, the default port. Correct, exactly. हाँ रोही बोलो.
जैसे कि मैंने आपको भी ना व्हाट्सएप किया है, और वो कंपनी लेटर हेड पे किया होगा, तो मैं शाजिया को बता दूं?
हाँ प्लीज उसको बता दो. और सुनो, मैं आप लोगों को मेल फॉरवर्ड करता हूँ, उसी मेल पे आपको रिप्लाई करना है उन लोगों को.
हाँ ठीक है सर, कोई बात नहीं, कोई इशू नहीं. आप मुझे कर दीजिए, मैं शाजिया को बता देती हूँ. वो स्टैम्प एंड साइन चाहिए होगा आपका, तो वो आपसे करवा लेंगे.
ठीक है. ओके. I'm sorry about it. So you've got 99. You can see this here. Now when I run this, because it is prod, it is supposed to pick up this properties, but there is no, you have not overridden the value of the property. So you see 9999. You got this. Such a beautiful concept, and such a concept wherein without this I cannot imagine my life. How will I put otherwise different values? Because at least not just the port, forget about the port. Usually I keep the port same in across all the different environments, but then the databases are 100% different. And not only the databases, but then there are quite a few other properties also that are different, right? That's how it is. So it's very important that we understand that this is the feature. See, automatically, did I configure or did I say anything? No, I just keep on putting the properties dev, prod, q, and so on. That's how it works. Correct. Then over and above this, in the properties file, how do you run this in on your cloud? Because here I did make change to prod, here I did make change to whatever, I'll say dev. Okay, so now this, when I run on my local machine, it's going to always run on dev. Correct. But when I deploy the same application, do you expect me to keep on making changes to this and generate a jar file and then deploy, then make it prod and then deploy on the prod environment, then make changes over here? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So see, it is so smart. It is so smart. What it does is that whenever you run an application, say for example, here we are running the application through this configuration, and in real life on the cloud you will have your .sh file, .batch file, you will have some kind of configuration file there also, the one that will kickstart this particular application. So there you can very well say, you can see this here, VM arguments, I'll say -d, and I will give here -d, and I'll say spring dot profiles dot active is equal to, I'm going to write this as QA, suppose on QA server, and on the prod server the script will have the value as prod, and on the dev server the script will have the value as dev. That's it. Now I keep on deploying. It is the same script that will be used in order to run the application on respective servers. So you see this when I say apply, and when I say OK, now whenever I run this, though I have given dev, whenever I run this, it's going to pick up that -d right? And it will not be dev but QA, and you can see in QA it is 84. You can see this, it's running in QA, and it will very clearly tell you here, my dear friends. See here, it will very clearly tell you in which environment it is working. Can you see the following profiles are active QA? So Spring Boot will give preference to the VM argument over what you have configured in the application or properties file. Hey, I hope you know what -d stands for. What is -d? कुछ idea है कि नहीं है? Do you all know what is -d? What -d stands for in while running Java? Any idea? Hey, that's bad. I'm sorry, because it's bad on my part also. I have trained you all on Java and I did not talk about it. So -d followed by anything equal to value will be the system property while that Java application is running. I repeat, that will be the system property. It can be any system property, right? It can be, I mean, you have to decide what kind of system properties that you need. You got that? And if you want to get the list of default system properties that you don't need to specify but will be there, you can get it like this. You see this? I'll go to any component, anywhere. Say for example, I can go to Spring Boot training application here itself, and then in the main function itself, I can very well do this. You know, I can very well write this code. See, I need some place to write this code, and that is not related to Spring Boot. Hello friends. This -d is not related to Spring Boot -d. It's a VM argument. VM is virtual machine, your Java virtual machine related argument, right? I can use it in, I mean, it's just simply plain Java. It is not dependent on anything. I write any Java application and still that will hold true. So let me do that. I'll say file open, and let me open this up, and then so that you don't think that it is a application that is, I mean, -d is an option for related to. Yeah, so I'll pick this up, Java trading. You remember the Java trading that we had created last time? Okay, you see this Java trading here. You can see this here, right? Java. Now all of these are, you know, it's just, excuse me. Yeah, so you see all of these are the classes that we have created. You can see this, for example, one of the class here is sales app. You can see the sales app here. Okay, one of the is sales app. So if I just simply write here system dot again, someone is not on mute mode, please go on mute. Hello, please go on mute, please. Okay, so I've got properties out here. Now what will this give me? This will give me the properties, right? This will give me a map of properties. You can see this. A result of system properties is ignored, determines. Okay, what it gives you back is, you see here, it gives you properties. Again, that properties is actually nothing but a map. So I'll say properties props is equal to, see, okay, I'll import this class, and then props dot, you can see this, I can get any property, or if I want to get the list of all the properties, you can see this, I get an enumeration from here. You can see this here, I get an enumeration. This enumeration is of type string, right? Enumeration is of type string. Okay, perfect. No, I don't need to give any generics there. And then I will keep on saying, you know, enumeration dot has more elements. So I'll say while enumeration has got all, you know, has more elements, I'll say enumeration dot next element. I'll say string. I'll say prop is equal to. You can see this here. Okay. Okay, it's an object. I will convert that to string. Okay, I have a string here. I say next element, and then yeah, next element is of type, enumeration is of type. Okay, let me print this. I'll say system.out.println, and I say prop. At least I will get the property. I will get what all are the default properties of, you know, system properties. I'll get OS and everything else. Warning, Java warning source 11. Okay, so you see this, all of these are the properties. Can you see this here? Java.runtime.name, java.jvm.version, and all of these are the default properties that you've got. Can you see the properties here, friends? os.name as well as, so what I can do is not just the property, I can also get, I'll write system.get property now, a particular property which is nothing but a prop. And now see this. So I can get the value of each one of those properties. Please see this here. You can see this, the value of each one of those properties. Let me close this and you see here. See this. So you have a right from top general java.runtime and OpenJDK runtime environment. Version is so and so. Spring Boot library.path is so and so. Here it is Gopher proxy set is so and so. Now I don't know what that Gopher is. And then but java.vm.vendor, who is providing that, path.separate, everything is over here. User.country, I'm in India. You see this launcher, everything. Can you see this? OS is, this is the architecture of the operating system. PC line.separator is whatever. os.name, Mac OS X name. You can see this. It prints everything. You can see this here. Isn't it brilliant? Okay, so this is what you can very well do. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this application. I'll go here and I'll say edit configuration. I've got sales app. I will start this application with my own additional arguments here. You can see this here. I've got build runtime, and then I'll say environmental and VM options. Yeah, correct. You can see this VM options are -d. I'll say yabba dabba do. Suppose I want to use a property in my application called yabba dabba do, and based on whatever value that is provided at the time of starting my application, it is that value that I would want to use. So I'll say is equal to some value. Okay, or I'll do one thing. I'll say -d my prop is equal to, I'll write yabba dabba do. Done. I'll say apply, and now when I say okay and when I say run this application, you will see for yourself I will have that additional property here called my prop with the value as yabba dabba do. Can you see? My prop, here it is, my prop hyphen yabba dabba. You can see that. So now you understand what does -d stand for. Hello friends, please please confirm, not confuse, I'm so sorry. Please confirm that you have understood what is -d. -d stands for what? Is that clear? Correct. -d stands for the system property, nothing but the system property that you provide to the JVM. Yeah, it is just the system property that you provide to the JVM. Okay, I'll close this application here. I'll come back here. So this is how it is, friends. I have in this Spring Boot application, you can very well specify -d, okay, and so on. Right, friends. So I suggest now you try your hands on this. Whatever I've explained, I want you to do exactly the same thing on your own machines. Exactly the same thing. Come on, this is what I want you to do. Try your hands on this. Get started. And then see, what's the time now? It's 11:28. So I want you to work on this for 10 minutes and then another 15 minutes for the tea break. So it's like, say it's almost 11:30. So we will be back at 11:50. Right, friends? 11:50 should be good. Okay, please do complete this and only then take a tea break.